Ladies and gentlemen, it is happening. The Bank of England has just hiked interest rates by 0.5%, aka 50 basis points. And guess what? The Federal Reserve Jerome Powell has come out and said that they're going to have to keep on lifting interest rates by the end of 2023, and there won't be any cuts in 2024. So go ahead and look at this, everyone. We can see here, Powell expects more Fed rate hikes ahead as inflation fight has a long way to go. Also, this news came out today as well. Bank of England surprises with 50 basis point rate hikes to tackle persistent inflation. People, things are getting absolutely crazy. We're seeing that inflation is still sticky like I predicted. And what we're seeing now is a lot of central banks, they're going to have to do the unthinkable. Because what many people thought was they would just lift interest rates to 5% and then that would be enough. They won't have to lift interest rates any more than that. And that's what I called for. I said they're going to have to go at least to 5%, but they may have to go to 6 or 7%. And we're kind of at, a point in the markets where the markets don't know where central banks are going to go. These central banks are playing chicken with the markets and they're playing chicken with inflation. They're talking big and strong. Yes, we're going to bring down inflation. We're going to smash inflation. Where now interest rates have got to a point where, okay, if you're really going to stop inflation, go ahead and do it. Lift interest rates by 50 basis points like the Bank of England has done. But the central banks are getting very, very worried because what we're still in the middle of, unlike the mainstream media is trying to tell you, is we're still in the middle of a banking crisis. And every single rate hike that the Federal Reserve does, or all these central bankers, this is not just the Federal Reserve, like I said, it's the Bank of England hiking interest rates by 50 basis points. The Reserve Bank of Australia, they're now hiking interest rates again. And I think the Federal Reserve made a huge mistake by pausing, and that's going to bite them in the butt when they see inflation surge again, like what happened with England. Because what happened with England is inflation is still very high. It actually ticked up, and they've got inflation of 8.7%. That's right, 8.7%. That's crazy. And that's official CPI. So if the official CPI is saying 8.7%, things are really, really bad. Now, their core inflation is also still very high at 7.1%. And guess what? The US core inflation is still 5.3%. This is still over 2.5 times the Federal Reserve's mandate. So if they're really going to need to stop inflation, they're going to have to lift interest rates above 6%. And why aren't people asking the question, what happens if it still doesn't stop inflation? What if they have to lift interest rates to 7 or 8%? Well, people, do you know what that's going to cause? It's not going to cause a recession, because guess what? Germany's in a recession. They're now saying their recession is going to be worse than expected. We're seeing New Zealand is in recession. The UK, they're in a recession. And if they keep on lifting interest rates, guess what? Like I said, we won't be in a recession. We're going to be in a global depression. And it's quite funny what these central bankers are now saying. They're saying, look, don't ask for a pay rise. How dare you ask for a pay rise? Inflation's so high. Meanwhile, these central bankers, these banking elite, they're getting huge pay rises. These government officials that are saying, don't ask for a pay rise, they're getting huge pay rises. But you peasants, don't you dare ask for a pay rise. And this is absolutely crazy, everyone. So what we have to be prepared for, the unthinkable, everyone, of central banks lifting interest rates higher than what the markets are pricing in. And this is what I've been warning about all along. Because the stock market has become very euphoric. They've been getting all hype, saying, yes, they're going to start cutting rates at the end of this year, for sure, no doubt. And that's why the market's been melting up. And this is what I've been afraid of, and this is what I've been hedging on. But now we're in uncharted territory. Central banks have never lifted interest rates this high. And guess what? I know we're going to say, oh, well, look, back in my day, interest rates were 20%. Well, guess what? House prices weren't this high back in the 80s. And guess what? Government debt, corporate debt, consumer debt was not this high in the 1980s. Debt is 4 times higher than it was before then. And so that's why every single interest rate hike now is so much more painful. So everyone, now that the Bank of England has hiked interest rates by 50 basis points, do you know what I think is going to happen next? I think we're going to see more rate hikes from the Fed. We're seeing this again and again with other central banks around the world. They tried to play the slow game and they got punished. The thing I will give credit to the Fed is they did lift interest rates a lot quicker than other central banks. And that's why, even though the US inflation rate is still high with core inflation at 5.3%, it's not as bad as England's inflation rate of 8.7%. Now, another reason this is so bad for England and other central banks around the world, because unlike the US that has 30-year fixed rate mortgages, most of the world only has fixed interest rates up to 5 years maximum. And most people in 2020 and 2021 fix their interest rates for 2 or 3 years, are expecting interest rates to be cut. But now interest rates are not going to be cut. So we're going to see one of the biggest mortgage crises worse than 2008, because again, debt is much higher than 2008. And even though borrowers are more creditworthy than 2008, well, guess what? They still cannot afford these increases. We're seeing people go from interest rates of 2% to 6%. And if interest rates keep on going up like this, we're going to have people go from fixed rates of 2% all the way up to 7 or 8%. We're seeing people's mortgage repayments almost double. So with record inflation, with everything else going up absolutely out of control, there is no way the average homeowner is going to be able to afford these new rates. But like I said, everyone, it always comes with a lag or 6 to 12 months from the peak. People talking about where's the recession? Where's the housing market crash now? Well, interest rates have not hit their peak yet, so we're going to have to wait at least 6 months to get all that data until they announce an official recession. So everyone, we're definitely in uncharted territory, and even I don't know what's going to happen next because the central bankers are not being transparent. But let me tell you, if they lift interest rates just another 1%, we're going to see a stock market crash and a housing market crash in the next 6 to 12 months. And we're getting up to earnings season for a lot of these major companies in the stock market. And guess what? If their earnings don't come in good because they're already significantly overvalued with a recent melt up in the markets, well, we're going to see the stock market tank and tank big. So everyone, I know you're thinking, well, okay, what can we do to prepare? Well, this is not financial advice, but what I'm doing is I'm hoarding cash on the sidelines. I'm also now buying gold and silver. That's recently being sold off because when the dollar goes up, gold and silver goes down in the short term. But once we enter an official recession, there's a lot of fear in the markets. People will run to a safe haven, and that's when we'll see gold and silver tick up again. But I am also building a huge war chest as well on the sidelines to get ready for the real estate market crash, because people, like I said, I think this is going to be just as bad, if not worse, than 2008, but it is going to take a long time for the housing market to crash. But everyone, what do you think about all of this? This was a very quick, urgent update. I hope you like these shorter videos. Let me know down below. Now, for my loyal viewers and subscribers still watching, you're awesome. If you're wanting to learn how to build wealth and master the cycles of gold, silver, and Bitcoin, you can click the link in the description below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.